talk is in English. It might have been a narrow tale about cloud services, about cost estimation, bills, documentation, but we have Q to help us. You might know Q, the character from James Bond series, the one able to change my microphone into a lightsaber, but Q is also the inspiration for Amazon Q developer, as the legend states. So our next storyteller is a true Faye, and I welcome Faye Ellis on stage for saving time with Amazon Q developer.
Hello, everybody. Salut. And we are here to talk about Amazon Q Developer. So I'm going to start off with a quote from you. This is from Google CEO, that today more than a quarter of new code at Google is generated by AI, and then just reviewed and accepted by engineers, helping their engineers to do more and move faster. Here's another one from the Microsoft CEO, who said that 20 to 30% of the code that's inside their repos, and even some of their entire projects, are probably all written by software. Now, I couldn't get a similar quote from AWS. However, they state that using Q Developer to migrate tens and thousands of production applications from Java 8 or 11 to Java 17 has given them these incredible savings over 4,500 years of development work for over 1,000 developers. So when I saw those quotes, I really thought to myself that every single role, every single tech role is being redefined at the moment. Gartner reports that AI is already boosting employee productivity by up to 50%. And all of our traditional tech roles are destined to be augmented with AI if they haven't already been. So in my mind, it's never been more important to keep on top of the latest tools and frameworks so that we can enable them to give us superpowers. My name is Faye Ellis. I'm a principal training architect at Pluralsight, which is a training company. I'm also an AWS community hero. I'm passionate about all things cloud, and I've worked in my time in loads of different roles, from sysadmin or système ordinateur, I hope I said that right, DevOps engineer and architect as well. And I've taught AWS skills to millions of people. My socials are on there, my LinkedIn and X, as well as Blue Sky. Okay, so let's get started. In this session, we're going to talk a little bit about what is Amazon Q Developer in the first place. I'll give you some sample prompts to try that are just some examples to get you thinking about how to use Q Developer in your daily life. I'll share with you how I use Amazon Q Developer, and particularly the Q Developer CLI, to maximize my productivity every day. Some mistakes to avoid. We'll talk a bit about how tech roles are changing and what we can do to make sure that we thrive with AI. And I've got some free tutorials and courses to share with you as well. Okay, so first of all, can I have a show of hands? Who here works with AWS regularly? Yeah, loads of you. Okay. Who has used Amazon Q Developer before? Some of you? Yeah? Okay. Well, if you've used it before and you weren't impressed, you are definitely going to be more impressed now, because they're using newer models. It's definitely making less hallucinations. And when I first started using Q Developer, probably about a year ago, I really wasn't impressed. But now it's an essential part of my workday. Has anyone used the Q Developer CLI agent before? Okay. Well, if you haven't used it before, and you don't mind working on the command line in the terminal, in fact, I like working in the terminal because I find it less distracting, then you are going to love the CLI agent. And has anyone been using Claude Sonnet to do anything? Yeah, it's one of the best. I think it's one of the best for coding. And it's actually the large language model that's used under the hood with QDeveloper. So if you like using Claude, then you'll probably like QDeveloper. OK, so when it comes to getting started, there are a number of different modes or ways that you can use it. So there's the CLI agent, which is what I'm going to be talking to you about and showing you today. You can also use QDeveloper in the AWS console. It pops up occasionally when you're using the console to help you troubleshoot, etc. And you can also get Q plugins for your IDE as well. So if you're using IntelliJ, JetBrains, and others, you can get a plugin and get QDeveloper in there. And they've also released Kiro, which is their own AWS IDE as well, which has got Q already integrated into it. But I believe that's still in preview. OK, key benefits are things like automation, getting AI to do some of the boring tasks that you have to do every day, give you code suggestions, code completion, perform code reviews, so identifying if you're using out-of-date libraries or security issues, that kind of thing. Help you with code documentation, like none of us like writing README files or documenting our code. Amazon QDeveloper can help with that. It can also be used to help you analyze your cost data so you can understand how am I spending so much money with AWS. And I still make mistakes with it all the time, leaving services running when I shouldn't. And finally, for troubleshooting, all those obscure messages that we get and you've got no idea how to fix it. QDeveloper can help. OK, similar alternative tools, things like GitHub Copilot, Google Gemini, of course, ChatGPT. You might get somewhere with those tools, but they're not integrated with the AWS ecosystem in the same way that Q is. So you're never really going to get as good a result, I believe. So if you regularly work with AWS services, whether you use the console, the CLI, SDKs, if you use CloudFormation or Terraform for infrastructure as code, then you are going to love QDeveloper, and it's going to help you with all of those kind of activities. OK, good things to know are that there is a free tier and a pro tier, so you can try it out for free. And with the free tier, it's quite generous. You get to play around with code suggestions in your IDE or in the CLI. You can diagnose errors in the console, but there are monthly limits, and you will soon hit the limit if you like it. So you get 50 chat interactions. You can transform up to 1,000 lines of code from one version of Java to a newer version. Perform 25 queries about AWS resources in your account. And you can perform 10 QDeveloper agent invocations, so using agents to do things for you and go beyond Q&A. But what I've actually found in practice is that at the moment, with the QDeveloper CLI, these monthly limits are not getting hit. So I wonder if these limits really just apply mainly to using it in your IDE. So if you would like to really explore QDeveloper before paying anything, definitely try it out in the CLI. So the pro tier is $19 a month, includes everything that you already get in the free tier, but with higher usage limits. So you can also customize it to your code base as well. So you can provide it a whole bunch of your code, and it can use that rather like RAG, so retrieval augmented generation. So you're providing a bunch of data to the underlying large language model, and it's using that basically as a knowledge base to inform it when it tells you about decisions that you ought to make or recommendations for what you should do with your code. You can also generate more. You can generate 1,000 SQL queries that you can't actually do in the free tier, You can transform more lines of code with Java, and you get unlimited Q Developer agent, chat, and AWS queries. If you are using the free tier, you'll want to probably opt out of data sharing, and this only applies with the free tier. With the pro tier, they're not using your data for anything. So with the free tier, data you put in can be used for service improvement. So debugging, model training, fixing any issues, etc. And you can just easily opt out in the settings. Okay, so what is so different about this CLI agent? Well, the reason I love it is because it actually goes beyond Q&A. It's not just a conversation. You can execute shell commands, read and write files on your local machine. You can take action by invoking the AWS CLI. You can commit code, run your CI/CD pipeline. Pretty much anything that you can do in the terminal, you can do it with the assistance of Amazon Q Developer. And you don't need to leave your terminal. It used to be just Mac and Linux, but they've recently added Windows as well, so available for most of us, I'd say. Right, we can also extend its basic capabilities using MCP servers, Model Context Protocol. And this is just an example of a few of the most interesting ones, or according to me anyway. So there's the AWS pricing MCP server, which lets you do cost analysis reports based on current pricing. So it will help you to understand, okay, what is this service going to cost me if I provision it in a certain way? There's a Terraform MCP server that lets you run Terraform commands, get best practice advice, etc. There's an EKS MCP server for Elastic Kubernetes Service. Allows you to easily, quickly create production clusters, deploy applications, troubleshoot. The AWS Diagram MCP server helps you to really quickly throw together a diagram. Let's say you're having a meeting with a client or customer or an end user, and you want to show, okay, this is what I'm going to build. You can use the AWS Diagram MCP server to generate a really quick diagram showing all the components and how they relate to each other. And I have an example to show you in a moment. And then finally, the AWS Documentation MCP server allows you to read and search through the latest documentation so you can make sure that no hallucinations are happening and what it tells you is up to date for the latest features. And that's really just a handful, but they're adding more and more at the time. Sorry, they're adding more and more all the time. And I just picked out the ones that I thought were interesting. This is where you'll find the rest of them in GitHub. And you can read all around how to add each one, how to configure it, etc. Very, very easy to do. Right, so here are some of my sample prompts to try. And these are just really examples for you to explore, like great prompts that you can try out for yourself as they are, that will hopefully help you to save some time in your daily activities when working with AWS. So I would encourage you to try them out, modify them, make them your own, and just really use them as inspiration for prompts that serve you best. Okay, so here's the first one. Creating a new EC2 instance, which is going to be a clone of my existing instance called my web server, but I want it to use the same security group and same identity and access management role. So this will probably save me maybe, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes, save me from having to search through the console, create an AMI, then provision a new instance and sit there watching it be provisioned. Instead, I can ask Amazon Q to do that for me while I take a break or I concentrate on something else. Here, I'm asking Q to take on a persona and to behave like a cost optimization analyst. I'm asking it to write me a Python script that's going to do a few things for me. So list my EC2 instances across all regions, filter for those where the CPU utilization is really low, under 5% for the past 30 days, write to a report, and then send that CSV report to my chosen SNS topic. And at the end, I need to provide the ARN, the Amazon resource name of that SNS topic. Here, I can get it to help me with my Git commits, the messages that I want to use to explain what I'm actually committing here. So I can ask it to use the conventional commit specification so that I make sure that every time I commit, it's explaining, okay, is this a feature or a bug or a documentation change? What's the kind of summary of the change? And what's a longer form description if I choose to add that as well? So I can get Q to take some of that load off me so I don't have to figure out what to write. Help me troubleshoot my obscure error messages. Very easy one. I work a lot with CloudFormation, so getting Q to help me make sure sanity check my CloudFormation templates is really useful. Here I'm asking it to review for a mission-critical environment, making sure I'm applying all the best practices around multi-AZ resilience, and to suggest cost improvements and security and performance improvements as well. What about converting a monolithic application to microservices? Well, I can ask Q to help me generate a step-by-step approach of how to actually modularize a particular application so that it's suitable to run in Lambda. Once it's given me the step-by-step approach, I can review it and refine it. And then finally, if I want it to apply that plan, I can ask it to apply that across my code base, but being sure to tell it when I want it to create brand new files and not update my existing files. Now, QDeveloper can also see what's going on my local laptop, if I give it permission to do so. So I can ask it to check out my local storage on my laptop, and if the storage is running out, suggest which large files exist which could potentially be deleted to free up my disk space. So are there duplicate files? Are there large files that are 3 or 4 years old? Okay, so on to my more concrete examples. So this is how I personally have been using QDeveloper over the last 2 or 3 months to maximize my productivity. And we all do different jobs, but my job is as a trainer, so it's my job to create content for a training company. That's my day-to-day job. But I would really describe myself as more of an architect, a builder, and then maybe thirdly as a content creator, because actually creating the content is the small part of the job. You've got to have done all of the design, the implementation, the building, the troubleshooting in order to actually get there. So that's just one part of my job. Another part of my job is actually creating these online lessons, labs, generating slides, creating diagrams, filling in documents and forms, and just doing research as well to understand new stuff and new technologies. I also spend a lot of time doing hands-on technical implementation, troubleshooting AWS, I'm sure lots of you do as well, and designing and building practical exercises that need to work the same way every single time. And I also have some constraints. So I work generally in a sandbox environment when I'm trying to create, or when I'm creating activities for our customers and creating training content. And those environments don't typically have anything built. There's nothing there in them. They're an empty account. So usually I have to build all of the prerequisites. I'm using CloudFormation all the time to build things like VPCs, subnets, maybe identity and access management roles, all that kind of thing that you need in order to actually do something interesting. Okay, the backstory to all of this is I'm sure you're all finding, as I am at Pluralsight, that we are being asked to do more with less. I work as part of a content team, and we were recently challenged to produce 500 unique pieces of content per quarter, and we're a very small team. So, another challenge is that every day there's a new tech skill to learn and teach, and before I teach it, I have to learn it myself. So the only real way I'm going to succeed with this challenge is if I use AI in every way possible. But nobody's going to tell me how what's the best way for me to personally use AI, because some things work, some things don't work, some things actually take me more time if I use AI. I might as well have done it myself. So the only way for me to figure it out is to try and use it in every possible area. So bringing it into every part of my workflow that I told you about earlier. Right, so here are my demos using the AWS CLI. These are all things that work great for me, and I would go back and do them again and again this way. So the first one is helping me to create infrastructure as code templates. In this example, I've already got an IAM policy that I've written. It works. And I just want to use CloudFormation to quickly put it into my Sandbox account. So I really hope that this is going to show up well on the screen, but let's give it a go. So here I am on my terminal. This is on my Mac here. And I start off a queue chat session in the terminal. And you'll see it's auto-completing. Okay, I can select whichever model I want. I'm using 3.7 Sonnet. This was recorded a few weeks ago. They've got 4.5 now. So I've asked it to create the template. You'll see there it's questioning me, do I trust it to actually write to my local machine? I have said T for trust. And then it's created the CloudFormation template for me, explaining what the template does, and it's even given me the command, the AWS CLI command, to implement the template, to actually launch the template. And it's explaining I need the capability named IAM flag because we're creating IAM resources. Okay, good to go. And I was able to just use that template and go ahead and use that command, and it all worked for me. All right, this one is to do with stopping an Amazon Comprehend sentiment detection job, not something that I do every day. So I couldn't remember the syntax of the command. I'd kicked off this job, and I didn't want to wait for it to complete, knowing that I'd made a mistake. So I asked Q Developer to help me identify the command to use to quickly stop this thing so that I could restart it using the right parameters. So there I am asking the question, it's thinking. And it comes back with the command to use, including telling me that I need to provide the job ID of the job that I want to stop. Okay, I've got an error here with my IAM permissions. So I've set the permissions, but I'm seeing an unexpected error, an access denied error, when I'm using the put object operation. So I'm trying to do something in S3, save a file to a bucket, and I'm getting access denied. I can ask Q Developer, how should I approach troubleshooting? What are the kind of steps that I should do? Okay, so it's identified some common causes, IAM permissions, bucket ownership permissions, bucket configuration, and it's given me a step-by-step troubleshooting approach. Check my role, check the bucket policy, check the settings, and test it with the AWS CLI, and also look for cross-account issues as well. And it's asking me, do I want more help? Do I want to check anything, any specific areas, or provide more details about the approach? Here I need to create some synthetic data for testing, because I don't want to test with production data. So I can ask Q Developer to generate a CSV file containing 100 examples of synthetic names and addresses that I can use as my dummy data. Now, interestingly, when I first tried this command, I asked QDeveloper to help me create a file containing 100 examples of personally identifiable information, or PII, and it refused. It said it wasn't here to create PII for me. So I had to rephrase, and I got it to create just the names and addresses. So I think it had a problem with creating synthetic PII. I suppose something that it creates could potentially cross-reference with somebody who's actually real, like create a real-life passport number, credit card number, I don't know, address, telephone number, that kind of thing. Okay, so let's ask it to do that job for me. Okay, it's thinking, and then there's the examples of the data, and it's asking me, do I trust it, and will I allow it to write this to my local file system? Here I can ask it to review my IAM policy for security best practices, and it's going to find quite a few issues with my policy. I wanted to try it out with a policy that I knew had some problems. And it's given me a more secure version of the policy, following the least privilege principle, adding condition keys, limiting the resource scope, etc. And it's saying at the bottom that I need to be sure to replace the placeholder region with my specific region that I'm working in, as well as replace the dummy account number as well, and add my function name too, because this is related to a Lambda function, being able to put events into CloudWatch. Okay, with this one, have you ever written a piece of code and then forgotten what it actually does 6 months later? I do it all the time. So I've got a function here. I just want it to explain, okay, what does this thing do? It's reading the file and giving me an explanation. It's a hotel booking function using Amazon Lex. This was for an Amazon, I think it was for, yeah, it was for Amazon Lex. I can also ask it to help me add error handling to a function if something's going wrong. I'm trying to troubleshoot it. And it can create, is going to create a brand new file with comprehensive error handling for my function and explaining everything that it's added. So we can review that and say, oh, do we want to add more different types of error handling? Has it covered everything that I expected? And we can try it and test it to see if it works as we want it to. But I would say that whenever you're getting QDeveloper to do anything like this, you want to make sure that you're actually reviewing it and you're prepared to accept it, test it, make sure you know exactly what it's doing, because this is an assistant, right? It's not an authority. It's not here to tell you how to write your code. It's here to help you. Okay, this is a command that I forget how to use all the time, the find command, a really useful command. But I can get QDeveloper to help me if I can't remember a certain shell command that I've not used for a while. So here I want to get it to help me find the files that have been modified in the last 7 days. And there we go. Quickly gives me the following shell command. Looks pretty good. It's got modification time of 7. And then the not flag. And then it's set my path, and it's sorting the results as well. Okay. Help with an AWS SDK. Sometimes when you take a look at the AWS documentation, it's not as easy as it could be to understand how to use the SDKs. When Bedrock first came out, I was really struggling to understand, okay, how do I actually use this service? And I had to figure it out by myself because QDeveloper was not helpful at that time. We're talking 18 months ago. But it's a lot better. I gave it a second chance. Okay, so it's explaining me that to invoke foundation models using Bedrock, I need to first install Boto 3, and then all the other things that I need to do to actually invoke the model, pass the response, and then actually print the response as well. And then at the end, it's asking me if I wanted to explain any particular aspect of that, and it's giving me a load of examples that I can try with as well. Here, another Bedrock one. I'm asking it to explain the best practices when setting common request body parameters for models in Bedrock. So when you actually customize the model, so things like temperature, top P, etc. And I can ask QDeveloper to explain the best practices so I understand what values I should be using when I invoke Bedrock. So here it's explaining temperature, top K, it's got top P in there as well. It explains max tokens, stop sequences, parameter combinations, and then at the bottom it's reminding me that because with Bedrock you can access loads of different foundation models over an API, the different models are going to respond differently to different parameters. So it's reminding me to experiment and find the right settings for my use case, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. And then this is my diagram. Using the AWS diagram MCP server, I asked it, this is literally the first time I used it, and I asked it to create a diagram for a 3-tier web application with using a few services like an application load balancer, using Elastic Container Service with Fargate, which is the serverless option where you can run Docker containers serverlessly, and Aurora as the data store across multiple AZs, and I've asked it to save the resulting file to my local folder, and this is what it did. It's pretty good for a first diagram with a kind of a basic prompt, really, and I think with a bit of refinement, I could get that diagram to a state where I could just go ahead and use it. But ultimately, as it is, this is still a great starting point if you had to explain the architecture that you're building to somebody. You had to have a meeting with your team to make sure that you were meeting all of the requirements of the infrastructure that you're preparing. Okay, so my results after all of that effort to try and use AI in everything that I was doing, I really found that QDeveloper CLI was a game changer for me personally. And it really gave me some significant time savings, saved time looking through documentation, trying to understand error messages, and to try and plan my work and actually let me focus and give me a little bit more rocket fuel to do the more interesting parts of my job that are not associated with making sure I've got the curly brackets in the right place in a bit of JSON. So it gave me reduced context switching, helped me avoid using multiple browser tabs and losing my place where which browser tab had that extremely useful piece of information on it, and preserving my headspace and my energy, allowing me to focus on higher level things. But there are some mistakes that we all need to avoid when using these kind of tools. Of course, hallucinations, you can come up against factual errors, and I certainly had in the early days with QDeveloper, but it's an awful lot better now. If you're providing data into these tools, you want to make sure that it's of the highest quality, it's relevant, it's up to date, and you'll want to make sure that it is referencing that data as well. And you can actually ask these tools, all of these AI tools, to give you citations and references as to where they got their information from and not blindly trust. You know, they say they can come back to you with information very confidently, having made up quotations or figures, facts and figures. So getting the citations and references is really important. Another mistake to avoid is over-reliance, so thinking that this thing is an authority over us and trusting it without validating any of the results or reading the code properly before you accept it. And just remembering that AI is an assistant, it's here to augment us, not be the authority of us. The other one is data leakage, so taking care to handle your confidential data in a responsible way, maybe needing to redact certain information before you share it. Always remembering that publicly available tools are likely to be retaining your data for model training unless you switch those settings off. So opting out of data sharing if you possibly can, and exploring the settings in every single AI tool that we use to make sure that we're not sharing data and we don't realize it. Now, tech roles are, of course, changing, and that means impact for all of us, whether we're engineers, builders, developers, DevOps people. Some of the great things about it, of course, are that we will get these productivity gains. We get to preserve our mental energy, save our headspace to focus on other tasks. And I really see this as a kind of a shift in skill set towards higher value tasks and not getting bogged down in little annoying, boring, repetitive tasks that we can get AI to help us with. So for me, the only course of action is really to embrace progress, lean into areas that only a human can excel at in order to survive and thrive in this era of AI. Now, as you're all here today, I'm sure you will agree with me that as humans, we thrive on relationships and community, and there's so many things that AI can't replicate at the moment. So if you think about real-world insights, first-hand opinions of technology and how it can be used, our shared collective experience of technology, empathy and understanding when we're designing systems, and an acknowledgement of the frustration and difficulty of learning new things when there's so much to learn. So for that reason, I don't think AI is replacing me anytime soon. But what I do see is a real rising demand for builders and technologists who can work with AI effectively. So people who understand the strengths and limitations, what it can do great and what it doesn't do so great. So being able to adapt really quickly by learning relevant technologies as they evolve as well. Working effectively with new tools as they come out, and bringing context, ethics, and empathy to the tech that we work and that we put out into the world. Ultimately, blending AI with our own expertise for the ultimate superpowers. So my challenge for you all is to consider in your own role what could be automated. So think about repetitive or long-winded tasks, things that take you ages, things that aren't really teaching you anything when you do them. Think about how you would define that problem and describe it. So how would you describe it to an AI model? And then ask yourself, could Amazon Q developer help you with that problem? What really worked for me is starting small, testing on routine, low-risk tasks, working in a sandbox environment where I'm not going to break anything, comparing AI output with my own output to validate it for quality, tracking my productivity gains as well to try and understand, okay, did this actually save me time, or did I spend so much time checking it, correcting it, and refining it that I should have just done the task myself? Sharing my successes with my team and also recording my successes as well. And always remembering that the tools are evolving. So something that you tried a few weeks ago, you might actually have a lot more success with it when the next model comes out. And certainly I found that to be the case with QDeveloper. Originally, my understanding is that when it was first released, it was using Amazon Titan as the model. And then it shifted to Claude, and then as the Claude models evolved and got better and better, I've seen it improve exponentially. And I'm sure it will continue to as well. Okay, so I've got some resources to share with you. Two free tutorials. One is how I used the MCP server and added it to my QDeveloper CLI. If you would like to try it out for yourself, that's an article on Dev2, which just explains exactly how I did it. And then the second one is kind of a tutorial form of this talk. So 10 ways I save time using the QDeveloper CLI. If you are interested in courses, if you like online learning, the company that I work for, Pluralsight, have loads of Amazon Q developer courses from like beginner to advanced. And we also have 10 days free, which you can find at pluralsight.com. They've got 6,000 plus courses, beginner to advanced, on all sorts of different technologies. 10-day free trial, and 50% discount code as well, if you are interested. And that also includes access to our Cloud Sandbox environment, which is an account that we actually pay for, and you don't have to worry about getting any unexpected AWS bills. It's all included in your Pluralsight subscription. So you can play, break things, leave things running, go to bed and forget about it, and we will pick up the bill. We'll close down all of the resources after about 4 hours or 8 hours, and we pick up the bill ultimately. So no surprise bills. Thank you so much for your time, and I will leave you with the final QR code for the reviews. And if you can think of any ways I can improve this talk, please find me and tell me and let me know. I would love to hear your suggestions. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for your participation. Thank you. Thank you.